why we love him.
Are you sitting comfortably? Then I shall begin.
Time may change me, but I can't trace time.
Ground control to Major Tom.
I'll see you play guitar. Wham, bam, bam, bam. Gene Genie lives on his back. Hot tramp, I love you so. Oh, bang, 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 bang. Oh, you can see what fire we can make it all. I am a DJ. Fashion turns to left. Ashes to ashes, spark to bucket. Never gonna go on. Blue jeans. Shaking like this, undoing that, never make me down. I've got dollars, I've got sense, wonder where the winner will win.
With the advent of the Stones and the other rebels of rock and all that, one could see that there was a new approach being taken. But there still was a good stiff stream of the old Tin Pan Alley biz.
When I'm 5, I will catch a butterfly and eat it, and I will be sick. When I'm 5, I will jump in puddles, laugh in church, and marry my mum.
I obviously had a penchant for bad hairdressers. I guess that was sort of, it was my fumblings about how to bring theatricality to pop music or rock. And it stems from a very sort of English thing about the idea of music hall and vaudeville and musical theatre and that sort of thing. It's still very popular to be a kind of mums and dads kind of folk hero, you know. Yeah. And I would have probably have had no problem doing that. But fortunately, I think I probably would have done pantomimes and musicals and things. Popular music, I thought he was absolutely superb poet and a stunning performer, which has not really been said about him, but he had a hypnotic, charismatic effect on stage. Also the first bloke I'd seen wearing makeup in a rock band. It's a great effect. Me and Mark Bolan both noted that. True, innit, Mark?
Well, I'm up on the 11th floor and I'm watching the cruisers below. You know my heart's in the basement, my weekend's at an all-time low. Well, he's down on the street and he's trying hard to pull Sister Flo. As she's hoping to score, well, I can't see her letting him go. Walk out of her heart, walk out of her mind. No, 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 she's so swissy in her satin and tie. In her frock.
Guys in the Spiders were sort of hippies from the provinces, weren't they? I mean, was it hard to make them over into glam rock stars?
Yeah, that was trial and tribulation alone. And trying to get them to dye their hair and put on funny clothes was...
How did you justify this to them?
It was great. It was great lining them up and saying, "You look terrific, lads. You sure?" I said, "Yeah, it's great. Believe me, it works." I just looked, I said, "Just go with me." I said, "Go with me." I said, "There's a mood that I feel in the air, and I know what it should look like and what it should sound like. Just let me play with it, all right?" Kind of thing. London was full of mime companies, the best of which was a group of mimes called the Lindsay Camp Company, who were very fundamental in teaching me quite a bit about stage work, stage craft, how lighting worked, how you could use your body on stage and make a dramatic statement without having... It's just that I did want to move on. The idea of just being in this internal kind of rock and roll, Jeff Beck-oriented sound band was okay, but I knew that we could do other things and explore other territories and areas of music and stuff. And they were fairly reticent about doing it. And I could see that if we were going to try and do that, it was going to be an uphill struggle, and I wasn't willing to go with it because I was too ambitious to do that.
Of all the shows on this tour, this particular show will remain with us the longest because Not only is it the last show of the tour, but it's the last show that we'll ever do. Thank you.
And so it seemed an auspicious moment at the end of that show. I really should have told the band, but I never did. So they came up and said, "What are you talking about? It's our last show." I said, "Well, look, I'm sorry, mate. Maybe I should have been a bit more diplomatic about it." I said, "But I think we've had it as a band. I think, you know, that I want to go off and do." He said, "Oh, you're going to do all that bloody arty stuff?" I said, "Probably, yeah." He said, "Right, I see. Well, I've got my own career."
You're so wonderful. Give me your hand. 'Cause you're wonderful, baby. Hey. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, we love you.
Since you've been in America, you seem to have picked up on a lot of the idioms and themes of American music and American culture. How's that happened?
There's a fly floating around in my milk, and he's a foreign body in it, you see, and he's getting a lot of milk. It's kind of how I felt. A foreign body here, and I couldn't help but soak it up.
Please welcome the incredible David Bowie.
Oh.
Hello. Excuse me. I'm quite a rock fan. I get influenced by other bands, other artists, and I tend to sort of steal things from them.
He's the David Bowie of Happy Days.
I'm a great fan of Fonzie, and I have a lot of admiration for Henry as an actor as well.
I'm very flattered.
That's what I meant to say, or do something. But what I never say to say this time, I really meant to so badly his time.
Loving somebody truly and wholeheartely and being in love are two very different conditions. I don't think being in love has anything to do with loving somebody.
'Cause you can never really tell when somebody wants something you want to.
Yeah.
All you have to do is, from your distract his mind, hit him here in his groin, and that way...
I think any television performance of that period, I was out of my gourd.
Song, song, blue, everybody knows one. Song, song, blue, every garden knows one. It's the loneliest number that you ever do.
I remember she was this tall, long, tall bird with black hair. And she's overpowering. She's got very piercing eyes. And a rather doleful expression. But I remember that she warmed up when we sang together. She seemed kind of a bit remote, and I'm not surprised that she was remote. I was probably like this crazed, like, anorexic figure walking in. I'm sure she didn't know what to make of me.
Baby, if I pray every night, you come back to me.
And at the end of the medley thing, I remember she sort of hugged me, and I thought, oh, she's quite human after all. Hopefully she was thinking the same about me.
If you want to be understood, you know what I mean? Ziggy Stardust
Absolutely
was
nothing to understand. I mean,
was
that's,
concerned with famine in the world and so on, and prophecies of the world running out of food and stuff like
I'm
that.
a storyteller and a story writer, and nothing that I do is on any kind of intellectual slant.
You got no mission.
No, it's just...
Yeah.
Oh. It was Carlos's riff. the Fame riff. We'd been using that riff for months on stage in a reworking of the Flares' Foot Stomping, and which indeed was with Luther.
Everybody, young and old, learns how to rock and roll. Listen to something new. Everybody sure can do that. Bullet stomping, 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 all of the time.
And Ava Cherry did a funny dance on the piano. I remember. A shimmy. She did a shimmy. Oh, that's right, because it started off as foot stomping and ended up as I wish I could shimmy like my sister Kate. That's right. And it was all that dang, 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 foot stomping.
Wish I could shimmy like my sister Kate. Well, she can shimmy like a jelly on the plate. All the girls, so I can do it. I can do it, yeah. Ooh. Everybody in the neighborhood.
Didn't that foot stomping riff turn into the basis for Fame, that duet with John Lennon?
We were in the studio, you know, when John came in and said, right, you know, what are we going to do? And I said, oh, God, we haven't got, what should we do? I said, can't quit that riff that you did. Come, we've got him here, let's do something with it, you know. So we got him there and we did the riff, and he started joining in, and it became Fame.
Hey, what you need is in the limo. What you get is no tomorrow. What you need, you have to borrow.
The single Fame really exploded, and that was my least favourite track on the album, even though John had contributed to it and everything. And I had no idea, as with Let's Dance, that that was what a commercial single is. And I haven't got a clue when it comes to singles. I just don't know. I don't know about them. I don't get it. And Fame was really out of left field for me. And I had no idea that that combination of an English expression of soul would be quite so popular in the United States.
Alligator. Oh, motherfucker, calling for you.
And then I started reading people like William Burroughs, and I started learning about the cut-up techniques that they employed to create new ways of thinking. And I thought I'd try and apply that to writing. So that's kind of how it evolved.
It was like doing a painting, a non-objective painting. It was rather like sort of playing with the colours in the paint itself, and looking at it for a bit and then seeing what figurative image comes off it, and then trying to either hide that or amplify it or whatever. It was sort of, it's a nice way of working.
Sometimes you get sunlight late. Sometimes you get nowhere.
Brian Eno, he's very helpful in terms of opening me up as a writer and changing my ideas about how I can write songs.
Every place.
There was absolutely no format. It wasn't at all formal. We came often with virtually nothing at all. And we would just take 5 or 6 notes or 2 or 3 chords and just repeat them in various sequences.
Oh, we can be heroes. Just things. I've never done bad things. I never did anything out of the blue. Whoa.
And so with the ongoing kind of music that I was doing at the time, Low, Heroes and Lodger, finally Scary Monsters, which by the time of Scary Monsters, the kind of music that I was doing was becoming very acceptable. And I was not the only artist. Well, there was just a small group of us in '76 doing that kind of music. By the early '80s, it was definitely the sound of the early '80s.
Put on your red shoes and dance the blues.
I think, having had the gigantic success of Let's Dance, I suddenly, for the first time in a long, long time, felt trapped. But also, I think I was fairly lured by the idea of that kind of international fame. And it seemed like, you know, I wasn't quite willing to break out of that trap myself quite so easily. I thought, well, I'll have another stab at this kind of thing because it's, this is exhilarating.
One day, I'm gonna write a poem in a letter. One day, I'm gonna get the faculty together.
Looking back on it all tonight and Never Let Me Down, what I think I unfortunately did is pulverize some perfectly good songs. I think I should have sabotaged those songs. I dealt with them far too quickly and thinking in a far too linear fashion of making them work within radio format. And whenever I've done that, it's always been an utter catastrophe. And I probably should never have done that because some of the songs themselves I really like. But I always say, I thought, God, I wish I'd done that again. You know, it's not quite. Oh, well.
The show that I'm doing this year will be very, very theatrical compared to that last show. Much more like the shows that I used to do in the early 70s.
When all your faith is failing, call my name. When you've got nothing coming, call my name.
Despite the set being so big and the impressiveness, I thought, of the clutter of activity that was going on throughout, it should have worked in stadiums, but worked in arenas. And I think anybody who saw it indoors will testify to the fact that it was probably what a really exciting show. But the pure size of it, I had thought, well, somehow you've got to be big in stadiums. But what I didn't take into account is because of the finite smallness of everything that was happening on stage, didn't go across in a stadium situation. That was a big mistake. I inherently like what we were doing. I just don't think it came off quite the way it should have done.
Tin machine, the trumpets and a ass, the kind that beats his baby up, the preachers and their ass.
On the guitar side of things, having now worked with Tin Machine for the last year and a half, I'm really quite like working with a small band again.
I can read, I can count down. I don't know, book from countdown.
Let's Dance was impressive, but it doesn't give me the same kind of satisfaction as, say, I Can't Read from the Tin Machine album, which for me is great. It's a great piece of work.
I can't reach it anymore.
There's already a second Tin Machine album done, right?
Yes.
In Australia?
Yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah, well, we had the urge to go do, you know, and also I wanted to take them to a land they'd never been to before, to see what it did to them. And,
what did it do to them?
Not very much.
Is this the last time you'll be doing this material? I mean, you'll never do this again, or you generally just don't want to do great music?
Absolutely and unequivocally the last time.
Really?
Without doubt.
Oh, gee.
No, I won't ever touch them again.
Really? What are you going to do with them?
Well, I'll probably get clones in and they'll do them all over the world like Andrew Lloyd Webber does. I've noted that there's been a great emphasis on the older bands and older artists to go out with very large contingents. And so I thought, okay, just do the opposite. I want to keep the stage as minimalist as possible. I really wanted to have the feel of an opera or ballet stage, where it was just one large, dark space that could be lit in a theatrical fashion.
Have the arrangements changed? I mean, the song's going to sound...
Stripped down, I think, is the real word. Stripped down so that it does become a keyboards, bass, drums, lead guitar interpretation of the songs that I've done over the years. It's a combination of film and video, so there's live events against footage, and they're completely spinning off each other. It's wonderful. It really is. I'm delighted with it. I've never been so thrilled.